Uh, Today's the 18th, and it has been days. Um, I kept getting ate up by the spider, and massive, like, welts, like, huge, and, so we tore apart the apartment looking for it and all that stuff. I tried really hard to find it. I couldn't find it that day, so then in the night I just couldn't hardly sleep, and I kept, every time I felt anything on me at all, I just like kind of a thing, and finally found it at like super early in the morning, and it was crawling across my face, and it was this tiny little thing. Like, it, I was expecting, like, not a wolf spider, but something, bigger than minuscule. And it was just like this little, very pale little baby looking spider. And I woke up with a start, so all I managed was to like slush it off of me, and then it like crawled away before I could think, oh, I should be like catching this, because I was dead tired. Um, So I went looking it up and trying to find it and stuff. And at first I was doing it by bite, and it had a lot of symptoms of brown recluse bite. But brown recluses aren't really native to New York. So um, now I found it. It's a yellow sac spider, and apparently, if you're allergic to it, the symptoms can be somewhat similar to brown recluse bites. It's actually apparently the most misdiagnosed bites in the country for brown recluses, is yellow sac spiders. So yay! But apparently I'm just allergic to it, and yay! The reason it itches as bad as it does is because my body's releasing so much histamine because it's allergic to it. So we cleaned a whole bunch of stuff, and both of the girls had panic attacks because neither of them like spiders, and we vacuumed underneath a whole bunch of stuff, and we like I mean, just basically we either got him or we disturbed where he had been living and he's somewhere else or something, because um I can't find any spider bites today. So hey, maybe I'll stop having these. The girls were all like worried that the necrosis was going to cause me to lose like a limb or something. I'm like, no, it'll be fine. I'm not going to die from this. It's not bad. Put hydrogen peroxide on it. If you get a spider bite, wash it with soap, put hydrogen peroxide on it. That stuff works. Keeps you from getting infected and all that jazz. They were healing so much more slowly until I started doing hydrogen peroxide, because I'd already been washing them, but I hadn't been putting hydrogen peroxide on until I looked all this shit up. That stuff works real good. So yeah, spider adventures. Yellow speck spiders don't usually bite people, so it's very interesting that this one has bitten me so many times. Usually they only bite people if they're like caught in clothing or, in your bed sheets and stuff like that. So I'm wondering if he basically was like crawling out to go hunting every night, and he would walk across me, and I move in my sleep a lot because um, I tend to sleep very deeply for like the first hour or two that I'm asleep, and then I'm a very light sleeper the rest of the night. And um, maybe I was just like moving and it scared him and he just bit me over and over. Um, I don't know. But anyway, yay. But yeah, you don't have to actually be scared of the spiders because they usually are not interested in human beings. So, and they're also less venomous than a brown recluse. Like, Like, they may exemplify a few of the same symptoms, but they're not bad, like a brown recluse can be. The girls have just been panicking about all that, and then dealing with some other stuff. My spouse's mom wants to come visit, and any time that my spouse is around her parents, either one of two things is going to happen. They're going to give her a present or money or something nice, and she'll be like, oh, this is why I never, want to cut my parents off, even though they've done such, bad things in the past, and people, when they hear about stuff that's happened to her, they're just like, I would never talk to my parents again. But she gets treated like a little princess sometimes around her parents. And then sometimes her parents are so insensitive, so completely in denial that they completely don't even think, oh yeah, this thing that I'm talking about right now and that I'm doing right now um, involves situations that my daughter was in that I should be more sensitive about. And they just don't. So then she's just triggered, like really badly, and completely upset and can't stop being upset. And her parents are completely oblivious to it. Just like they were completely oblivious when she was a kid to all the bad stuff that was being done to her, because they just don't live in reality half the time. They're massive denialists. Um, like it's just crazy sometimes the things that they do because they're in so much denial about anything that's ever negative. She wants to come visit, and I made extremely clear if she's coming to visit, she has to follow the coronavirus rules and everything. And she's like, oh, I will. I'm an old hat at this. And then also spends half the conversation making sure she's getting the rules exactly right. And it's like, on the one hand, they love my spouse enough to not want my spouse to get sick, to want to be protective. But on the other hand, they're so neglectful. I don't I don't trust that they've been actually taking care and actually thinking about who's touched what and what have they done when they're in public and everything. Like, if they get her sick, they'll just deny it. There are times when her parents are the stupidest people I've ever met. It takes 2 weeks sometimes for symptoms to show if you've got it. So what's she been doing for the last 2 weeks? Has she been being safe? She lives with, you know, another one of her kids who has been going out and partying and going out to social stuff and bars and shit like that. Has she been sanitizing stuff after that child comes in? Like, it's not just you walk through the door and you sanitize stuff right that second if everyone else isn't also doing that. My spouse's endocrinologist took me aside when this first started and said, don't let her get this, don't let her end up in urgent care, don't let her end up in the ER. So I have done whatever I could to make sure my spouse wouldn't get this. leave it to her parents to be like, oh, let's travel. She was all asking me, hey, what's your travel plans for the summer? When are you coming to visit? And it's like, have they found a vaccine? Have they found even reliable treatment for this? Has anything medically progressed? Just because you're bored of the virus doesn't mean the virus is done. And you know your daughter is immunocompromised. No, I'm not coming to visit you. And she was like, oh, I didn't even think about that. Well, I was just, wondering when, the restrictions would come down for her and stuff. And I'm like, when something medically progresses, I am not willing to risk her life just because the rest of the United States of America is like, hey, doesn't matter. It's like, it matters to me. It's interesting to me. I was looking at the cases charts for different countries just because I like looking at other countries' news and other countries' statistics and stuff besides just the United States. It's really interesting. The coronavirus spikes up for all of them around, these same windows. And then the spike gets shoved back down because the people in the country, try to take care of their own and do all this stuff. In the United States of America, it spikes up and then it goes down like a quarter of the way and just stays going straight across. And it's just stuck at this new height and it just hasn't gone back down at all. Like almost at all. It did go back down a quarter of a. It's just like. Thousands of people are still dying. And people are just like, whatever, we're just going back to life as normal. Whoever dies, dies. And the thing is they act like dying is the only thing that can happen. There have been people who've had to have amputations because of complications of this. There's people who will have lung issues for the rest of their life and need doctor care for the rest of their life because of complications from coronavirus. Like, it's not just dying. Your quality of life, it can be just shot for the rest of your existence. It's like, at least in New York here, everyone's still, wearing masks. At least in the part of New York that we live, no one has had a case of coronavirus. But like the city that's only half an hour away has, multiple cases. So everyone here, even though we haven't had a single case, acts like someone from, the city nearby could come over at any point, touch everything, and get someone sick. So we just act that way. We are very jovial and nice to each other and all of that stuff still, like we were before coronavirus. We just also have hand sanitizer everywhere and wear masks. And everyone is wearing the masks. And, I mean, I have asthma. I'm wearing a mask. What's your excuse? The whole point of wearing the mask is it can take 2 weeks. 2 weeks of you spreading germs, spreading a virus all over everything, a contagious virus, while you're not showing symptoms, so you assume you don't have it. 2 weeks. And sometimes symptoms show sooner than that, but it can take 2 weeks. And you're wearing the mask so you keep your own germs inside the mask and away from everything else. Like, it's very simple. You're protecting everyone from you in case you have it. I don't know. It seems like in the United States, if stuff doesn't affect someone personally, they just kind of pretend it doesn't happen. I feel like the whole country has this horrible case of being a denialist, kind of like her parents, who hurt her constantly, unintentionally, unmaliciously, just hurt her because of denying. Denial, denial, denial. Her mom wants to dredge up all this crap. And it's crap that involves all those neglectful situations where they allowed pedophiles to harm their daughter. For the next 2 weeks, her mom wants to do this every day. Because she doesn't think about her daughter. And you know who gets to take care of her while she's melting down and having massive psych issues and weeping, just weeping. Because her parents, if it's not affecting them, it's not happening. And honestly, once something has affected them, after a couple of months, it didn't happen. I feel like that's the United States. And it's been a couple of months, didn't happen. And it's just like, so effed up. It's like the worst way to live. I personally don't really have the energy for her mom to come visit. But thankfully it's only for like just a couple days. I just, it's exhausting. It really is. And I'm already going to be extra exhausted because of Peaches being so distraught. How do you deny so strongly that you can forget? I'm I think part of what it is her parents are the least protective people I've ever met in my life. And I'm a very protective person. If I love or care about someone, I'm like, Rrr. I'm like, I will bend over backwards to protect somebody I care about. I am the shield between them and harm. I will do anything I can to keep them safe, to keep them cared for. If someone hurt my kid, first of all, that person would not be in my kid's life like instantly. They'd be in jail. Secondly, that person would be prosecuted in court. Thirdly, like, I would do everything I could to make sure that person could never do it to another child. And then fourthly, my kid matters. I would be aware of that for the rest of my kid's life. I would never, ever, 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 ever let that go. I would be extra vigilant. I would wrap them up in my arms every single night if I had to, if they are having just night terrors, which my spouse does have night terrors. Like, I would do anything for my kid to try to help them through it, get them whatever therapy they need, like, take them to support groups, anything I could think of that could possibly help them. I would do it. Like, anything. And her parents are just like, eh. And it's just like, How can you not be ripped apart for your kid? How can you not be? And the thing is it happened so many times. It wasn't just once. And it's like, I don't understand how anyone could treat their kid that way. But they think they're great parents because they, you know, buy her things sometimes. Because they made sure she had a roof over her head and they made sure she had food in her belly her whole life. And those are good things. Those are definitely things parents should do. Absolutely they are. But that's like scraping the bare minimum there. That's not being an exceptional parent. That's being mediocre at best. It's not loving your kid, that's taking care of a pet. People do the same things for their freaking animals. They think if they give material things that makes up for everything else. As if nothing else is important. And it's just like the fakest, stupidest thing. I don't know, my heart hurts for my spouse. And of course, her being upset sets off our girlfriend's disorders, and then the girls fight with each other because they're both freaking out. And they can't just be like, you know what? My emotions are exploding right now because I'm freaking out, and their emotions are exploding because they're freaking out. We should just both not make it worse by attacking each other while we're both freaking out. Now they both are really just, they're so anxious that they're trying to hide and they get super defensive. And I guess that's their way of expressing that need to hide. I don't know. And then they were both worried about the spider bites, which only added to it. Because they're both like, nothing can happen to me. Which, on the one hand, is like, yay, they love me. On the other hand, it's like, I've survived a lot worse than this little spider. Like, this little spider ain't got nothing that I'm afraid of. Like, I'm irritated by him. I want him to stop freaking putting welts on me. But, these big welts are calming down, and he didn't seem to appear to get me last night, so I'm good. I'm fine. I'm not gonna die. I'm not gonna abandon them or leave them alone. I'm still gonna be here and I'm still gonna take care of them. Sometimes they just need to be reassured. I told my trans group about the whole, taking pictures, and I could actually see some progress, and, I couldn't really tell the 3 inches before, but with the pictures I could. They were all like, that's awesome, that's great, that's really good, and stuff. And they talked about some of their body stuff and everything, and I found it interesting. Most of them had overweight issues that they were trying to deal with, but one of them couldn't ever keep weight on, and I don't know, I felt like I was the only one who considered those to be this same validity of an issue. Everyone else in the group was like, as soon as the person would stop talking about their inability to keep weight on, they'd immediately just jump in like they're cutting them off to talk about their overweight issues, as if it's like, yeah, but this is the real issue. So the person who had the underweight issues kept bringing it up tentatively again, like, yeah, I just wish I could, you know, have a better time of trying to stay above 120. And then someone jumps on it again, and I just kept saying, you know, you're doing a good job to that person just as much as the other ones. I was trying really hard to be equally validating to all of them, because I don't know, so it just seemed like they were like, yeah, but you get to be skinny or something like that. And I've met people with eating disorders and stuff trying desperately, I mean, it's just as bad, and it affects them. Obviously, it's affecting them, so just value them as a person. Like, even if you think, huh, at least you get to be skinny inside your head, don't act like that. If a person's struggling, they're struggling. And it's a support group. Be supportive. And take a breath before you start talking about your thing. Like, give them a moment of having that support before you jump into your thing, if you can. Like, I did post the medical thing for the trans group to try to help them with educating, because some of them were not very educated on more modern stuff. Like, we were basically talking a lot about like phalloplasties and surgeries and things like that, and they were talking about it from outdated information. Like, I was like, that's not how it works now, or that's not the same now, or whatever, so depends on the surgeons. But because some of the surgeons do crap jobs because they're still doing it the old ways. But I mean, there should be almost no risk of loss of sensitivity anymore with the ability to attach nerves, um, having moved as far forward as it has. There's a lot more like learning about things and understanding about things. And they were like, oh, the average complication is probably like 15 surgeries. And I'm like, no, it's 6. It's 6. It's 3 stages, but usually you have some sort of little complication that you need to go get it fixed or readjusted or whatever. Thankfully, stuff has progressed a little bit. I'm hoping in the next couple of years, until I can, find some way to scrounge up some money to do it myself, that it keeps moving forward, because the technology on it is growing. It is getting better. Like, I won't even consider a surgeon who doesn't attach the nerves. Like, they can attach the nerves to one of the bases of the clitoris and to your groin so that you can still get arousal and everything. And you have sensitivity from one end going up into your bottom growth, and then you have the other attached to your groin. And that way you can get internalized pleasure. I won't even consider a surgeon who won't do that. Sorry, my alarm's going off. I have an appointment. It's been very long, little, almost no sleep days. I'm wondering if that's why I've been more grouchy lately, or depressing lately, or whatever. Just lack of sleep, maybe. But I don't know. seems like a lot of depressing things are just happening. Anyway, I'm gonna go turn off this alarm and get ready for my appointment.